The birthday gift. The sky over the alien palace was filled with floating lights and strange flying creatures. Music played from silver towers, and robots danced in circles. Everyone in the palace was busy. It was the 16th birthday of Princess Kayla, the only daughter of the High King of Silora. She sat on her silver throne, dressed in glowing purple robes. Her face looked calm, but her heart was full of boredom. One by one, aliens brought her gifts: jewels from the ice planet, fire flowers from the burning moon, and even a singing star locked in a glass box. Kayla smiled politely, but her eyes didn't shine. The king, tall and cold, stood beside her. He watched her carefully. He didn't like the way she looked. Empty. When the last gift was placed before her, he leaned down and whispered, "You have not smiled once, my daughter. Is this not what you wished for?" Kayla looked up at her father. Her voice was soft but clear. "Father," she said, "these gifts are nice, but I want something different this year. I want a pet." The king raised an eyebrow. "You already have pets: diamond serpents, shadow cats, even a tiny solar dragon." Kayla shook her head. "No, father. I want something rare, something from that blue planet." Silence filled the hall. "Earth," a voice whispered. All the aliens turned and stared. Some looked shocked, others looked afraid. Earth was far, dangerous, strange. The humans there were wild and proud. They did not kneel. They did not obey. The king gave a cold smile. "You want a human?" Kayla nodded slowly. "Yes, just one, as my pet." The king laughed. "Very well, I shall bring you your human." 3 nights later, a ship returned to the palace. It had strange marks and battle scars. Inside the ship, a tall young man was chained to the floor. His eyes were brown. His face was bruised, but his spirit was not broken. He had been taken from Earth while walking home from work. A bright light, a loud noise, and then darkness. Now he sat inside a golden cage. Around him were alien guards with weapons. The doors opened. He was pulled out and brought before the princess. Kayla walked up to him, her long robe floating behind her. "So, this is my gift," she said, circling the cage. The human looked at her. He said nothing. "Can it speak?" she asked. One of the guards hit the cage with his staff. "Speak, human." The young man stood up. He grabbed the bars of the cage and stared at the princess. "I have a name," he said, his voice strong. "My name is Eli. I'm not your gift. I'm not your pet. I'm a person." Gasps filled the room. Kayla blinked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not even her teachers. Not even her father. "You dare talk to me like that?" she asked, her voice sharp. Eli crossed his arms. "You kidnapped me. You locked me in a cage. And now you want me to bark like a dog." The king stepped forward, eyes burning. "You will learn your place, human." Eli stared back. "I already know my place. Do you know yours?" The king raised his hand, ready to strike. But Kayla held it back. "No," she said. "Wait." She stepped closer to the cage. For the first time in her life, someone wasn't afraid of her. Someone looked at her like she was just a girl, not a princess, not a ruler, just Kayla. "I don't understand you," she whispered. Eli gave a tired smile. "That's because you've never talked to someone who didn't fear you." The king growled. "He is dangerous." Kayla nodded. "Yes, but maybe that's what I need." The king's face turned cold. "If he disobeys again, he will be sent to the arena." Eli looked confused. "What's the arena?" Kayla didn't answer. Her eyes dropped for a moment. Then she looked back at him. "You're in my world now, Eli. But maybe you can teach me something." Eli sat down slowly. "Maybe I can, but only if you stop treating me like an animal." There was silence again. Then, Kayla did something no one expected. She pressed a button, and the cage opened. Eli didn't run. He didn't move. He looked around, then slowly stepped out. "You're free to walk in the garden," Kayla said, "but don't try to leave the palace. You won't make it far." Eli looked at her. "Why are you doing this?" Kayla turned away. "Because I'm tired of fake smiles and broken gifts." The human with fire in his eyes. The garden outside the alien palace was glowing with light from 3 moons. Trees had silver leaves that whispered in the wind. The air smelled like crushed flowers and something sweet, like fruit and spice. Eli stood there, watching the stars. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He simply stood. Guards watched him from a distance, whispering to each other. Why doesn't he try to escape? Maybe he's already broken inside. But Eli wasn't broken. His eyes burned with something none of them understood. Fire. Not real fire, but a kind of fire only humans carry. The fire of never giving up. Princess Kayla stood behind a tall plant, watching him from the shadows. She had been standing there for 10 minutes. Something inside her chest felt strange. Was it fear, curiosity, or something else? Eli turned around slowly. His voice was calm. "I know you're watching me." Kayla stepped forward. She didn't smile. "You could have tried to escape." "I would have failed," Eli said. "But that's not why I didn't run." "Then why?" "Because I don't run from people who are confused. I run from monsters. And right now, you're not sure which one you want to be." Kayla looked down at her hands. They were soft. Perfect. Not like his. Rough, scared, dirty. "You are strange," she whispered. Eli chuckled. "Where I'm from, you're the strange one." She sat on a rock and stared at the sky. "Do you miss your world?" Eli took a breath. Every second. Kayla looked at him. "Tell me about it." And so Eli did. He spoke of Earth, of pizza, of books, of cars and music, of families and friends, of pain and joy, of rain and fire and snow. Kayla listened like a child. No one had ever told her stories like this. Not real ones. Not warm ones. "You laugh a lot on your planet," she said. "Because life is hard," Eli answered. "If we don't laugh, we break." The next morning, the king summoned Kayla. He did not look pleased. "I've heard reports," he said, voice cold as ice. "You've been spending time with your pet." Kayla's face stayed calm. "His name is Eli. I don't care what his name is. He is dangerous." Kayla met her father's eyes. "Maybe. But he is honest. Something this palace has never been." The king slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. If he speaks out of turn again, he goes to the arena." Kayla's voice dropped. "He saved me last night." The king paused. "What do you mean?" Kayla looked down. There was a drone. It came from the west wall. It fired a dart at me. Eli saw it before anyone else and pushed me out of the way. The king stood slowly. His eyes narrowed. "Are you sure?" Kayla nodded. He took the dart in his arm. The king said nothing for a long time. Then, finally, "Bring him to me." In the royal healing room, Eli sat with a bandage on his arm. It still hurt, but he didn't show it. He was too busy watching the strange glowing water in a nearby glass tank. "You're not afraid," said a voice. Eli turned. The king stood at the door. "Should I be?" Eli asked. "Most people are." "I'm not most people." The king walked closer. "Why did you save my daughter?" "Because she didn't deserve to die. You could have used it to escape." "I'm not a coward," Eli said. "And I'm not your enemy. But if you push me, I won't back down." The king's face did not change, but something in his eyes flickered. Curiosity. "You speak boldly. Humans always do." "Do they always die for people they don't know?" "Sometimes, when it matters." The king nodded slowly. "You have fire in your eyes, human." That can be dangerous. Or useful. Eli said nothing. That night, Kayla visited him again. She brought him food. Real food. Not the gray slime the guards gave him. "Don't worry," she said. "It's not poisoned." Eli smiled. "Didn't think you cared." "I don't know if I do," Kayla whispered. "But I want to." Eli took a bite. It tasted like bread and something sweet. "Thank you," he said. She sat beside him on the grass. Silence passed between them like soft wind. "I've never seen someone talk to my father like that," Kayla said. "I've never met someone like your father," Eli replied. "He could destroy you." "Maybe. But I won't kneel." Kayla looked at him. "Why not?" Eli leaned back and looked at the stars. "Because if I kneel, then you'll never know what humans really are." Kayla whispered, "And what are humans?" Eli looked at her. His eyes burned again. "We are the fire that refuses to die." The arena of beasts. Eli stood in silence, his arms chained behind his back. The cold metal floor beneath his feet vibrated with the sound of roaring crowds above. Alien voices echoed through the chamber like thunder. The guards on either side of him avoided his eyes. Even they seemed nervous. A thick door slowly opened ahead, letting in a burst of sound. Cheers, screams, and something deeper. Hunger. The arena of beasts had awakened. Above, in a private viewing box, Princess Kayla stood behind her father. Her hands were clenched tightly, hidden inside her robe. She looked down at the center of the arena and saw Eli standing alone in a large circular pit. "He's not ready," she whispered. "The king didn't turn around. Then he will die quickly, like most humans do." Kayla stepped forward. "You said if he saved me, he earned freedom." "I said he could fight for it," the king replied coldly. "And now he will." Eli looked around the arena. The walls were smooth and too high to climb. Above him, alien nobles sat behind energy shields, safe and entertained. Colorful banners waved, and on one of the large screens floating in the air, he saw himself, tired, dirty, but still standing. The announcer's voice boomed. "From the far planet called Earth, a creature of chaos, a species known for fire, war, and rebellion. But today, he is nothing more than prey." The gates across from him opened with a loud crack. A beast emerged, taller than a truck, its skin made of jagged rock, eyes glowing red, breath like hot steam. The crowd cheered. Eli whispered to himself, "Of course it breathes fire." He looked up at Kayla. She wasn't smiling. She looked afraid. Then the beast roared and charged. There were no weapons, no armor, just Eli and instincts. He dodged left, rolling over the dirt floor just as the beast's claws smashed into the ground. Dust exploded around him. The crowd screamed louder. The beast turned, fast for its size, and tried to bite him. Eli jumped back. Not far enough. The teeth scraped his arm. Blood poured out. He fell, panting, dizzy. A voice in his mind whispered, "This is it. This is how it ends." But another voice rose louder, his own. "No, not like this. Not without a fight." Eli grabbed a broken rock from the ground. He ran toward the beast instead of away. The crowd gasped. He slid under its legs and slammed the rock into the soft flesh beneath its jaw. The beast howled. He climbed its back, found a weak spot near the spine, and drove the rock into it again and again. The beast screamed, spinning in circles, trying to throw him off. Eli was thrown across the arena. He hit the wall hard, but didn't stay down. He stood, bleeding and shaking. The beast turned again, slower now, limping. Eli walked forward, not running, not afraid. He stared into the beast's red eyes. "I'm not your prey," he said. Then he did something no one expected. He threw down the rock. The beast looked confused. Eli took a deep breath. "I'm not here to kill you. I know what it feels like to be a prisoner." The beast growled, but it did not attack. Kayla leaned forward in shock. The crowd went silent. Eli raised his hands. They put you in chains. They want blood. Don't give it to them. The beast blinked slowly. Then it roared, but not at Eli. It turned to the guards near the gate and smashed the door open, and then it walked away. The arena was silent. The audience didn't cheer. They didn't know what to feel. They had come for death, but they had seen something else. Mercy. The announcer was speechless. In the royal box, the king stood up. He refused to kill, he said. He ruined the show. Kayla turned to him. No, father. He changed it. Later that night, Eli sat in a cold chamber. His wounds had been treated, but his body still ached. The door opened. Kayla stepped inside. You disobeyed, she said. I survived, Eli replied. You didn't win the way they wanted. I don't play their games. Kayla looked at him for a long moment. You could have died. So could you, when that drone attacked you. They both went silent. Then Kayla spoke again. Do you know what the crowd is saying? Eli raised an eyebrow. They're calling you the untamed flame. He smiled weakly. Sounds dramatic. They've never seen anyone show kindness in the arena. Kindness isn't weakness, Eli said. Where I'm from, it's strength. Kayla sat beside him. My father is angry. He wanted to break you. Instead, you've become something else. Eli turned to her. I'm not your pet. I never will be. She didn't argue. You're more than that now, she whispered. You're a symbol. Eli looked down at his hands. Symbols don't last long in this empire. Maybe, Kayla said, but this one will burn longer than most. The rebellion begins. The sun of Silora never set. It simply dimmed into a warm golden glow. But inside the palace walls, the light had changed. It felt colder now, heavier. Word of Eli's mercy in the arena had spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, screens replayed the moment he chose not to kill the beast. He had lifted no sword. He had shouted no threats. Yet his actions echoed louder than any war cry. Some laughed. Some were confused. But many had begun to hope. In the lower districts of the empire, where poor workers mined crystals and cleaned machines, whispers began. They say the human didn't kill the monster. He spoke to it, showed it mercy. Maybe he's not like us. Maybe he's better. The king heard these whispers, and he hated them. That night, in her private chambers, Princess Kayla sat alone. She stared at her hands. They trembled slightly. She had not seen her father this angry in years. He had screamed at the advisors, ordered guards to double their rounds, called emergency meetings. He had even locked Eli away again, this time deeper beneath the palace, inside a vault made for war criminals. Why does he scare you so much, father? Kayla thought. Then a voice echoed in her room. I scare him because he knows I'm not afraid. She turned sharply. Eli stood at the edge of the balcony. Wah, how did you get out? She whispered. He shrugged. The vault wasn't made for someone with a good memory and patience. You broke out. No, Eli said, stepping forward. I just walked out. Someone left the door open. Kayla's eyes widened. Someone helped you. Eli nodded. You're not the only one who thinks this empire is broken. She stared at him for a long moment. Why are you here? She asked. To ask you a question. What question? He stepped closer. Are you ready to stop pretending? Kayla's mouth went dry. Pretending. That your father is kind. That this empire is fair. That you're just a pretty flower behind glass. You know it's not true. Her voice trembled. And what if I already knew that? Then it's time, Eli said softly, to do something about it. Far beneath the palace, Eli led Kayla through secret tunnels. Rusted doors opened to reveal wide chambers filled with old technology, some forbidden, some forgotten. Aliens of many species gathered inside. Workers, guards, scientists, even a few soldiers. None of them rich, none of them powerful, but all of them ready. Kayla's eyes widened as she saw the strange gathering. One of them, a tall being with silver skin, stepped forward. "This is the princess?" he asked. Eli nodded. "She knows the palace. She knows the people inside. She can help." The alien looked at Kayla. "You were born into this empire. You sat beside the tyrant. Why should we trust you?" Kayla didn't flinch. "Because I sat in silence long enough." The next days were quiet, on the surface. But underground, the storm began to form. Kayla brought maps, schedules, guard patterns. Eli trained with the old warriors, learning alien fighting styles and teaching them human ones. His ability to adapt, to think, to connect, it inspired everyone. Some called him a leader. He didn't like the word. "I'm just a man who got kidnapped," he said. "But now, I have a reason to fight." One night, while sitting alone in a dark garden corner, Kayla turned to Eli. "Why are humans like this?" she asked. "Like what?" "Always ready to stand up, even when you're weak, even when you're alone." Eli smiled softly. "Because we're born to fall and rise again. That's how we survive. That's how we win." Kayla stared at him. "I envy that." "You don't need to," Eli said gently. "You've already started to change." But change never comes without a price. 2 days later, Kayla's favorite maid was found dead, poisoned. A message had been left on her mirror in red ink. "Traitors die first." Kayla locked herself in her room, shaking. Eli came to her. "She died because of me," Kayla whispered. "No," Eli said. "She died because of your father, and because fear is losing." Kayla looked up. Then we hit back. The plan was simple and dangerous. Eli and Kayla would sneak into the Central Archive, an ancient system that held hidden files, secret crimes, and long-buried truths. The king had hidden them for years, but if those files were shown to the galaxy, the Empire's mask would fall. The night of the mission, the sky turned black with storm clouds. Kayla dressed in armor for the first time. Not royal silk, real metal, real weight. Eli helped her strap it on. "You look ready," he said. She gave a small smile. "You look tired." "I am," he said, "but I won't stop now." They moved like shadows through the palace, avoiding patrols, ducking into old servant tunnels. Kayla led the way. She knew the halls better than anyone. They reached the archive room. Eli hacked the old console, sweating. Kayla watched the door. Then, click, the screen lit up. Lines of information flowed like rivers. Crimes, lies, names, dates, orders, everything. Eli turned to her. "You still want to do this?" Kayla nodded. "Let the galaxy see who my father really is." One button press later, the truth went live. Across planets, across ships, across stars, the crimes of the king flashed across screens. The silence that followed felt heavier than war drums. In the palace throne room, the king stood in front of a massive screen. On it, he saw his daughter, standing beside the human, speaking to the galaxy. "My name is Kayla, daughter of the king. I was born in gold, but now I stand with the forgotten. Today, I choose truth." The king screamed in rage and declared war. The war council. The palace was silent. Too silent. The grand halls, once filled with soft music and robotic servants, now stood empty. Curtains fluttered in the wind from broken windows. Footsteps echoed like ghosts. But beneath the silence, anger boiled. The king's face, once calm and proud, was now twisted with rage. The video Kayla and Eli had broadcast was everywhere. There was no hiding it. The galaxy had seen the truth about the tortures, the secret prisons, the executions. Worlds that once bowed to him now sent cold replies. We demand answers. Your rule is not welcome here anymore. The king didn't reply. He gave one command to his army. Kill them both. Far from the palace, hidden inside a large cave on a jungle moon, Kayla stood beside Eli. The heat was heavy. The air smelled like moss and oil. Behind them stood a circle of leaders, alien rebels, rogue soldiers, smugglers, and forgotten warriors. This was the War Council. A tall insect-like commander from the outer colonies pointed at a map on the wall. We have 3 weeks before the Empire brings its main fleet here, he said. We are outnumbered 5-1. A lizard-like female with glowing eyes hissed. Then we must strike before they arrive. No, said a calm robot with golden eyes. If we strike now, we lose. We need unity. We need more fighters. But who will fight for a human? Another voice spat. All eyes turned to Eli. He stood still, quiet. Kayla stepped forward. Not for a human, she said. For hope. For something better. A silence followed. Then Eli spoke, voice clear and steady. I didn't ask to be here. I didn't want to be a symbol. But if this is where I am, then I'll fight. Not because I want power, but because I want freedom. Not just for me, for all of us. He looked around the room. For your children, for your dead, for the ones too afraid to speak. The room was quiet. Then the robot said, You have my army. The lizard woman nodded. And mine. The insect commander thumped his chest. I'll fight beside the flame. More voices joined in. The circle tightened. The war had begun. That night, Kayla couldn't sleep. She walked outside the cave and sat under the stars. Eli joined her, sitting on a rock nearby. You were amazing today, he said. Kayla smiled weakly. I was shaking the whole time. That's what made it real. She looked at him. Eli, do you ever think we'll win? He looked up at the stars. I think we already did something they never expected. We stood up. Kayla looked down at her hands. I've never killed anyone before. Eli didn't speak. But tomorrow, I might have to. Still, Eli was quiet. She turned to him. What if I can't do it? He finally answered. Then don't do it for hate. Do it to protect. Do it for someone else. That's the only way to carry it. She nodded slowly. I'm scared. So am I. The next day, they began to train. The rebels came in small groups. Tired, hungry, but determined. Eli trained them in human combat. Fast, smart, flexible. Kayla trained in silence, day after day, blade in hand. She was clumsy at first, but she didn't stop. And soon, she moved like lightning. The people saw her not as a princess anymore, but as a leader. She bleeds with us, they said. She fights beside us. One afternoon, during a quiet break, a small child approached Eli. She had purple skin and wide black eyes. She held out a drawing. Stick figures holding hands, one of them with fire in his chest. That's you, she said. Eli smiled. Is that fire? She nodded. My mom says you carry it, and that we should follow the fire. Eli's smile faded slightly. I hope I don't burn anyone. You won't, she said softly. Fire keeps people warm. That night, an emergency alert lit the cave. A rebel outpost had been attacked. Survivors were being hunted through the forest by Empire scouts. Kayla didn't hesitate. We go now. Eli and 10 others followed her into the trees. The moon above cast strange shadows. They found the survivors, 5 of them, hiding behind a rock wall. One was bleeding. Another was just a child. Then came the sound. Boots. Empire soldiers. Kayla signaled for silence. They hid in the dark. Then, a scream. A scout had found them. Without thinking, Kayla jumped out and slashed her blade across the soldier's armor. He fell, dead. The forest went silent. Kayla stood over him, frozen. Eli ran to her side. She stared at her hands, red with blood. "I didn't think," she said. "I just moved." Eli looked at her. "You protected them." Kayla looked up, eyes wide. "I didn't feel hate. I just knew I had to." "Then you did it right." They led the survivors home. Back in the cave, Kayla washed her hands slowly. The water turned red, then clear. She looked in the mirror. "I'm not the same girl who asked for a pet," she whispered. Behind her, Eli stood at the door. "No, you're not." She turned. "Do you hate me now?" He shook his head. "No, I'm just proud of who you've become." Later that night, a new message arrived. From a hidden base deep in the stars. A signal from a powerful ex-general of the Empire. It read, "I saw your broadcast. I know what the king has done. I'm ready to join you. But only if I speak to the human myself." Eli looked at the screen. Kayla narrowed her eyes. "Do you trust him?" "No," Eli said. "But I think he wants something we all want now." "What?" Eli stared at the stars. "To be free. The human weapon." The wind howled across the steel plains of Cryon 7. A dead world filled with ash, broken towers, and long-forgotten wars. Above the planet, 3 rebel ships circled quietly, invisible to scanners. They had come for a meeting with a ghost. General Vorn, once the king's most trusted war commander, had vanished 5 years ago. Some said he died. Others said he had been hiding, waiting. Now he had sent a signal. "I want to meet the human. Alone." It was a trap. Eli knew it. Everyone knew it. But Eli agreed anyway. Kayla watched from the ship's window as Eli prepared to descend to the surface. "You don't have to do this," she said. Eli tightened the strap on his armor. "I do." "Why?" she asked, her voice low. Eli looked at her. "Because some people need to look into your eyes before they decide to follow you. And if we're going to win this war, I need him." Kayla reached out and placed her hand on his. "Just come back." Eli gave her a small smile. "I always do." The meeting point was an old war bunker buried beneath the ash. The doors creaked open, revealing a tall figure in black armor with gray hair and red eyes. General Vorn. He stood alone. Eli stepped forward slowly. "No guards?" Eli asked. "None you can see," Vorn replied. They walked into a quiet room. Dust floated through the air like snow. "You're different than I expected," the general said. "How so?" "Smaller and more dangerous." Eli said nothing. Vorn leaned forward. "Do you know why your kind frightens this galaxy?" Eli shook his head. "Because you are impossible to break. You survive. You suffer. You adapt. Even in chains you burn." Eli met his eyes. "I didn't ask to be part of your empire. But now I'm part of its fall." Vorn smiled slowly. "Good." For an hour they spoke. Vorn asked questions about Earth, about Eli's plans, his beliefs, even his fears. Eli didn't lie, but he didn't give away everything either. Finally, Vorn stood. "I'll give you what you want. Ships, soldiers, intel." Eli narrowed his eyes. "Why?" Vorn's face turned grim. "Because I served a monster for too long, and I want to die on the right side of history." Eli returned to the ship. Kayla ran to him. "Well?" "He's in," Eli said. Kayla didn't smile. "Are you sure he's not playing you?" Eli's face was unreadable. "If he is, we'll find out soon enough." That night, in the rebel cave, a celebration began. Drones flew with lights. Music played. For the first time in weeks, people laughed. But Kayla couldn't smile. Something felt wrong. Too easy. Too perfect. She walked alone through the dark corridors of the cave. That's when she saw it, a small metal box hidden behind a stack of crates. It blinked red. Her eyes widened. A bomb. She didn't scream. She didn't move. She pressed her comm device. Eli, get everyone out. Now. The explosion came 30 seconds later. Half the cave collapsed. Smoke choked the air. Screams echoed. Eli carried 2 children out with a bleeding arm. Kayla dragged an unconscious soldier by his collar. Flames lit the jungle behind them. They had survived, but just barely. Later, as doctors treated the wounded, Eli sat on a broken log, shirt torn, ice cold. Kayla stood in front of him. It was Vorn, she said. Had to be. Only he knew we were here. Eli said nothing. Kayla knelt beside him. This was a warning. No, Eli said quietly. This was a message. What kind? He looked at the stars above. He wanted to remind me that trust has a price. The next morning, a royal drone flew into the jungle. It carried a holo message. Kayla activated it. Her father's image appeared, calm, dressed in royal blue, surrounded by guards. I see you're still alive, he said, looking at Kayla. Impressive. I trained you well. Kayla clenched her fists. The king turned to the camera. And you, he said, human, you've inspired fools, burned bridges, and started a fire. He paused. But you've also become mine. Kayla's face twisted. What's he talking about? The king smiled darkly. I studied you, every cell, every heartbeat. Do you think we brought you here by accident? Eli stood slowly. What are you saying? You are not just a man, the king said. You are a weapon. Kayla looked at Eli, confused. The king continued. When we first took you, we placed something inside you, a small device. A sleeping command. And now, I wake it. He raised a small controller. Goodbye, Kayla. Suddenly, Eli dropped to his knees. He screamed, grabbing his head. Kayla ran to him. Eli. His eyes glowed red for a second. His hands trembled. His voice changed. Must. Obey. No, Kayla shouted. Fight it. Eli fell backward, shaking. Guards rushed forward, unsure if they should help or hold him down. Kayla grabbed his face. Eli, listen to me. This is not who you are. You are stronger than this. His voice cracked. Can't. Control it. You can, she whispered, because you already broke their chains once. Break this one too. Then silence. Eli's body went still. Kayla held her breath. Then, he opened his eyes. Clear, brown, human. He looked up at her. It's gone, he whispered. I crushed it. Kayla gasped. How? He smiled weakly. Because I remembered your voice. The drone exploded. But the message had been sent. The king had used Eli as a weapon and failed. But now the galaxy knew the truth. He had tried to control a human. And the human said no. That night, Eli sat alone by a fire. Kayla joined him. You could have killed us all. But I didn't, he said. Because I'm still me. She leaned against him. No, you're more than that now. He looked at the flames. What's left after this? Kayla whispered, war. Eli nodded. Then let's finish it. The last choice. The stars had gone quiet. Across the galaxy, ships floated like frozen shadows. Broadcasts had stopped. Music had faded. Even the royal signals had fallen silent. Everyone knew. The final battle was coming. At the edge of the Silora Empire, just outside the orbit of its capital planet, a fleet had gathered, more massive than any in history. Rebel ships of every shape and size. Fighters built from scrap. Freighters turned into war machines. Even broken royal ships, now repainted with new colors and courage. In the center, one command ship stood taller than all. And inside, Eli looked at himself in the mirror. He wore dark rebel armor. His chest still bore a scar from the king's failed control device. But his eyes were still burning. Behind him, Kayla stepped in, dressed in battle armor, her long braid tucked behind her shoulder. "You ready?" she asked. Eli nodded slowly. "I'm not doing this for revenge." "Then why?" He turned to her, for everyone who never got the chance to choose. Meanwhile, deep inside the palace, the king stood alone in his throne room. The walls had changed, once gold and polished, now cracked from fear. He watched the incoming rebel fleet from his screen. "They dare come here," he muttered. "They forget who I am." Behind him, his final weapon was being prepared. A machine so powerful, so ancient, even he feared it. The name whispered through forgotten records. The Starcore. Built thousands of years ago. Buried. Sealed. Forbidden. Now, awakened. Kayla's fleet broke through the outer defenses. Space shook with fire and lightning. Laser blasts screamed across the dark sky. But the rebels didn't stop. They pushed forward, planet by planet, station by station. Inside the capital's sky, the final wave descended. Eli and Caleb led the charge. The palace shook as rebel troops stormed through. Doors fell. Statues broke. Walls shattered. Kayla's boots hit the marble floor of her childhood like thunder. She knew these halls. Every turn, every secret path. But this time, she wasn't walking in silence. This time, she had an army behind her. They reached the throne room. The king stood alone. Or so it seemed. Eli stepped forward. "It ends now." The king laughed softly. "Oh, you poor creature. Do you think this was your story?" He raised his arm, and the ground split open. A massive machine rose from below. Dark steel. Red lights. Humming with ancient energy. It wasn't a weapon. It was alive. The Starcore had awakened. It spoke in a voice that wasn't human or alien, but something deeper. Command accepted. Target, humanity. Eli's breath caught. Kayla shouted, "It's reading your DNA." The Starcore moved fast. It fired a pulse of energy. Eli dodged, barely. The wall behind him turned to dust. Kayla ran toward the controls, but the system was locked. "This thing is designed to destroy your bloodline," she shouted. Eli stood tall. "Then there's only one way to stop it." "No," Kayla screamed. "Don't say it. If I'm the target, then I have to lead it away." She grabbed his arm. "There has to be another way." Eli looked into her eyes. "There always is, but not always one that keeps everyone safe." Eli turned to the king. "Was this your final move? A machine that kills anything human?" The king's face twitched. "You should never have existed. You changed her. You changed them all." Eli stepped closer. "No, I just reminded them what it means to be free." Then he ran. Straight toward the Starcore. It chased him, firing beam after beam. He led it through the broken halls, out of the palace, up a launch ramp. A rebel ship was waiting. He jumped in. The Starcore followed. "Lock coordinates," Eli whispered. "To where?" the ship asked. He looked out the window. "To a dead star. Somewhere empty. Somewhere far." "Confirmed." Kayla's voice came through the comm. "Eli, don't do this." "I have to," he said. "You don't," she cried. He closed his eyes. "I'm not just a symbol. I'm a man who made a choice, and I choose you." Then he ended the call and jumped the ship into hyperspace, with the Starcore chasing him through the stars. Hours passed. Kayla stood in the ruined throne room, surrounded by silence. The king had been taken. The rebels had won. But her heart had shattered. She stood at the balcony, watching the sky. And then something blinked. A light. A signal. A ship. Eli's ship. Cracked. Burnt. But alive. It crash-landed outside the palace walls. Kayla ran. When the doors opened, he stumbled out. She froze, then sprinted toward him. He caught her in his arms, laughing through pain. "You, Came back, she whispered. I told you, he said. I always do. Weeks passed. The empire slowly broke apart. Not from war, but from truth. Worlds began to rule themselves. New councils were built. Voices once silenced began to speak. And at the center of it all, two names were whispered like a story. Kayla, the princess who chose her people. Eli, the human who taught a galaxy to choose. On a quiet hill outside the capital, they built a garden. In the middle of it stood a statue, not of a king, not of a weapon, but of a man and a woman standing side by side, hands joined, looking at the stars. Underneath, the words, "We were never meant to kneel. We were meant to rise." The end.